A whole bunch of people sent me a story because they saw the name Michigan crossing their desks. And I'm always looking for stories about cars. And of course, if it's Michigan, it helps because that's where I'm licensed to practice law as an attorney. And so several people said, hey, Steve, Tesla is coming to Michigan, finally. And I've talked about this before. Michigan passed anti-Tesla legislation a few years ago to keep Tesla out to protect the big three because, of course, Michigan is home to the big three. Ford, GM, and Chrysler pretty much all got their starts here and have a huge presence here to this day. So when Tesla came along, well, the legislature just decided to pass some legislation to keep Tesla out. Of course, that made the big three very happy, but it doesn't seem fair, especially to people who wanted to buy Tesla automobiles here in Michigan. So the weird thing is that if you go to Somerset Mall in Troy, there is a beautiful mall with all kinds of high-end stuff there, including a Tesla gallery. You can walk into the Tesla gallery and look at a Tesla. You can actually speak to a representative from Tesla, but the representative cannot sell you that car, because you cannot buy that car legally in Michigan. Tesla's not allowed to sell cars here, or at least they weren't until now. So it's still a strange story. I'll try to explain to you what I think is going on, because we really don't know just yet. And the story is off of Bloomberg, but it's widely reported elsewhere. Tesla reaches deal clearing way for Michigan service centers. And Gabrielle Coppola and Dana Hull wrote the story for Bloomberg. Tesla has reached a settlement with the state of Michigan over its federal lawsuit challenging the anti-Tesla legislation. And basically what the law said is that car companies are not allowed to sell cars directly to consumers. Ford can't, GM can't, Chrysler can't, Tesla can't. And of course, Ford, GM, and Chrysler never did, or at least they don't now. So the law only affects Tesla. And it's one of those situations where everyone knows what's going on here, but they try to pretend that they don't. This is a partial victory for Tesla, and that's the point. It's not a complete victory, partial victory. Because the settlement clears the way for the electric car maker to open service centers in the state, but they have to do it through a subsidiary. So right now, if you buy a Chrysler, you can take it to a Chrysler dealer for service. If you buy your Tesla while you live in Michigan, you had to buy it in Ohio or Illinois or some other state. And then Tesla wasn't allowed to open up service centers here yet either. So apparently, according to the settlement, they can form a company that does that and then have that company open up service centers here in Michigan. And apparently they're willing to do that. The details of the settlement are not completely public yet because no one has officially released this to the press, and the people who are leaking the news weren't supposed to. But this could be revealed as soon as today. And if it does get updated substantially, I will do an update to this. Customers, however, have to do a little dipsy-doodle to make this work because the law is still on the books, and the law has not been tested yet. Tesla filed a lawsuit to challenge the law, and the state of Michigan has apparently said, okay, here's what we'll do. If you want to sell cars to people here in Michigan, as long as they take delivery in another state and then bring it here, we'll let you do that, because apparently that's one way to skirt the law, the way the law is written. So what the state of Michigan has done is basically said, look, we're going to agree that there is this loophole. As long as you exploit that loophole, we're going to leave the law on the books, but we won't enforce it against you. That's what we've come to, people. So the Michigan Attorney General's office had no immediate comment. Tesla reps also wouldn't respond to comments. But again, to buy the car in Michigan, you're going to be able to go talk to that nice young person at the Tesla display at Somerset Mall or any place else they set up. You're going to be allowed to do everything necessary to buy the car there, but you have to agree to take delivery in another state and have it titled in that other state, then bring it back to Michigan, retitle it here, and then you got your car. Still making Tesla people jump through hoops. And you're going to ask, but Steve, if you buy the car in Ohio, don't Ohio people charge sales tax? Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. So there's going to be some hassle there, but baby steps, people. Tesla, which sells its electric cars directly to consumers in roughly 24 states, filed suit against Michigan in 2016, trying to overturn that ban on direct sales by auto manufacturers to consumers. And in that action, they targeted the bill signed by then Governor Rick Snyder in 2014 because that was an anti-Tesla bill. And let's face it, it was. It was designed to favor the state's automakers and franchise dealers. Instead of operating a network of franchise dealerships with hundreds of vehicles in the lot, Tesla's strategy has been to open small stores and shopping malls and other visible locations with lots of foot traffic. General Motors Company, Ford Motor Company, Fiat Chrysler, Automobiles NV, and other car makers operate under franchise models that they've been doing for decades. And those were originally put in place to prevent manufacturers from opening stores to compete with their own dealers. But now the big three are using this law to simply keep out that upstart Tesla. And, General Motors has got more important things to do, like, build cars with deadly ignition switches. And Ford, of course, is busy putting cars on the road with dual clutch transmissions. See, we can't compete on the playing field, so let's rewrite the rule books and see if we can't keep our opponents off the field. Tesla has operated the gallery I mentioned a moment ago at the high-end mall in Troy, Michigan called Somerset Collection. It's been there since 2017. Tesla owners in the state had to travel, however, to Cleveland or Columbus, Ohio to have their vehicles worked on until they opened a new service center in Toledo. And again, for people from Michigan who are Michiganians as far as I'm concerned, traveling to Ohio for any purpose is usually something we'd rather not do. But Tesla Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk said in July that service centers are a key to growing sales. And that's true. I've had people say, if I buy a Tesla, where do I get it serviced? It might be difficult, So you've got to have service. You have to have the supercharging and charging all sorted out, good consumer financing, and the price must make sense, Musk said on an earnings call. Any place where those four things are true, our sales are great. So we're rolling out service centers like crazy. In March, Tesla reversed its controversial plan to close most of its stores, but said that shoppers who visit its retail locations will be shown how to order a car on their phone in minutes. Yes, we've gotten to that, where you'll be able to order a brand new electric car by phone. We're this close to having that car deliver itself to your door. This close. We're not there yet, though. So the Tesla stores have played critical roles in educating consumers about making the switch to electric and in arranging test drives. In the 2016 lawsuit, Tesla said it was being stymied by automakers and dealers in Michigan. It's been waging similar battles in Texas and Connecticut for a license to sell directly to consumers, arguing that it doesn't violate dealers' rights because the company doesn't have any dealers. In 2016, Tesla's vice president of business development accused GM of pushing legislation that would keep the direct sales model banned in Indiana also. Tesla now has 2 stores and 1 service center in Indiana, according to the website. So here's the thing. The fight that the big three is waging against Tesla is a losing battle. Everyone knows it. It's a losing battle. It's kind of like if the whalers, before whaling went away, had waged a battle against all of the forces they thought were against them without realizing the handwriting's on the wall. Pretty soon there won't be whaling ships pulling into the ports and harbors up and down the northeast coast. It's just going to happen. It's inevitable. Buffalo hunters went away. Guys who made their living hunting buffalo. No longer can you do that as a vocation. I feel sorry for them because some of them actually had to go find other jobs. But they did. So the idea that the big three can keep Tesla out of Michigan when consumers want the cars, it's a losing battle. They're going to lose. They're going to lose that battle. And it's one of the situations where people who are standing back and kind of observing this, I like to think I'm an observer, not an eccentric, but an observer. Very little joke. Are watching this going, wait, so GM, Ford, and Chrysler also at one point in time were complaining about electric cars, saying nobody wanted electric cars. I remember them saying that. And now they're all building electric cars. And it's funny how that happens, and so you think of these things that happen at glacial speeds, very, very slowly, like turning an aircraft carrier around or something. There's going to be a time down the road when the car companies are going to be selling electric cars like anything else. And there's going to come a time when people in Michigan can buy Teslas. Go to a local Tesla dealer and buy a Tesla. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so they're forestalling this. They're pushing it back a little bit. But what are they doing in the meantime? So I look at this and go, wow, these big corporations that will do these big dumb things, and they don't think anybody cares. They don't think anybody will notice. I noticed. Other people have noticed, And so when I talk to people and mention that I grew up in Detroit, proudly grew up in Detroit, and I've always bought American-made cars. I, to this day, have never owned a car that was not built by Ford, GM, or Chrysler, or one of the, things under their umbrella. Never have. Never have. And I've met people who go, Steve, that's insane. You're a dinosaur. You're out of step with that. And I'm like, no, that's the way I was raised. I had friends, relatives, and neighbors, countrymen, who worked for the big three. And so I thought I'm buying an American-made car to support them. I'm not trying to support the corporate masters. I'm trying to support the workers who build these cars because they still have jobs, unlike the buffalo hunters and the whale hunters. And so I've had other people go, but Steve, look at the car companies now. Look what they're doing now. And when I look at something like this where I go, wow, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler are going crazy trying to keep Tesla out, trying to keep you from buying a Tesla. And that to me is wrong. And so I haven't completely rethought my only American car thing. I think I'd have a hard time buying a Toyota, heaven forbid. But it's getting to the point where I'm looking at GM, Ford, and Chrysler going, look, what are you guys doing? GM ignition switches, the dual clutch transmissions, Chrysler electronics, just across the board, all their electronics, and then here they are fighting to keep the competition out. They want to keep the competition out. Why? Because the competition is building better cars. If they could defeat Tesla on the playing field, all else equal, Tesla sells their cars, GM sells their cars, Ford sells their cars, Chrysler sells their cars, the other car companies sell their cars. Let the marketplace decide. If Tesla automobiles aren't that good, they won't survive. And yet somehow they're making inroads and people want to buy their cars. So as of right now, apparently you can buy a car from Tesla in Michigan. You just got to go to another state to do it, get it titled there, bring it back to Michigan, and retitle it here. But that's the way they decided to resolve this weird thing with a bunch of weird loopholes and so on. Like I said, it's a dipsy doodle. Questions, comments, put them below. If there's updates, I'll pass them along. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Never trust a computer you can't throw out the window.